Even like when Quinn, my young like stepbrother, for those who are not family, sorry, I like make it sound so professional. Making it sound so professional. I just want to be like Quinny. He when I feel like when he left India, he left with a completely different perspective than when he came with, obviously. But like when he came, he was like making references to things like Family Guy and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was like, the fact that that kid, you know, has been so involved in pop culture, but still felt like when he returned home that he had like learned something, and when it was important, and he was going to like, you know, correct people on like comments that weren't appropriate, or, you know, etc. You know, that's so beautiful, and that leads to such massive change because, you know, again, like I think anything to do with, you know, either conscious living or responsible travel, like it starts with your mindset. And like the sooner you can, like, you know, mold that mindset to, you know, see everything that's happening, and they're getting to see it so rapidly and question it, and the, you know, critical thinking skills are like a lot more active in young people now, and they're just making the right decisions. But it's still scary because there's still a lot of people who are still, you know, struggling in that journey and don't want to like face the truth because it's terrifying. But
like India was one of those like life-changing experiences for me. Like I came home just with a completely different mindset on so many things, and I feel like it truly was a trip that changed me in a lot of ways.
For me, when we were in India, it just opened my eyes. We're so fortunate to live here in Canada, where the majority of people, obviously it's not a perfect country, and I know it's not the same for Indigenous people, but the majority of Canadians here, you know, have access to clean water, fresh food, income support, all that kind of thing. And, you know, you hear about droughts and no access to clean water and that kind of thing, but until you actually see that with your own eyes, it's a little bit difficult to connect with that. And so being in India and seeing that, and really just understanding what it's like to live like that, and how you don't want that for anyone. You wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. And, you know, taking that experience and bringing it home. And, you know, I'm not moving to India. I love you, Jazzmine. I will come and visit you. But it made me realize, like, I will do what I can here in Canada and try my best to create a system that, you know, it is circular and happy and healthy for every single individual. And then, you know, hoping that can kind of be modeled in other countries as well. And obviously when we come to visit you in India, or when we travel to other places, doing our very best to support local and be sustainable tourists, and you know, make ethical decisions for the places that we visit. Yeah. But just having that traveling experience really did open my eyes and made me, you know, think globally, act locally kind of thing.
Well, even like I went to Costa Rica. That was my last trip after India, and I took so much of what I learned in sustainable traveling from India and applied that to our trip to Costa Rica. And I really like I had a lot of thought that went into activities that we were doing, and like just the stuff I was going to pack and all of that. And I really just think that it just opened my eyes so much.
Everyone go
to yeah. And you know what the interesting thing is though too is like speaking on kind of globalization as well. You know, India has actually always historically been a very, very resourceful country. Like, you know, everything in your kitchen is like, you know, whether obviously besides like steel and all that stuff, but like, you know, clay pots and like urns, and you know, using like all your spatulas are like, you know, like Ayurvedic woods, and, you know, everything, like, I know that's like a really specific example, it's because I was just cooking. But like, and then in terms of like, you know, clothing and everything being passed down, and that being a really big part of the heritage, and even like before colonization, like I just learned this recently, that India actually had a much more like indigenous sustainable cotton crop that was called kala cotton. And it used like so much less water, and, you know, and it's not just because of the idea of like, oh, I need to like save the earth. It's like a need, like you're like, we have a water shortage. So it's my job as like the farmer to make sure that what I'm growing is not going to, you know, harm communities that are in need or harm the future. And it's still happening. Obviously, there is, again, with the young people, like the amount of incredible young entrepreneurs, even young entrepreneurs who are even older than me, but like, it's so based, the problem is so deep when it comes to like things like specifically like waste management and like sanitation, and then going to travel, like, travelers coming in, then having this like stereotype about certain things in India, just perpetuates that kind of like effect even more. And and again, it just goes back to this idea that like, when you are traveling, I don't even know how to word this, because you have to consider all four parts, and you need to do your research before you go to a destination. You need to, travel is an experience, and it's not just like a getaway to get drunk and, like, I mean, it is sometimes, but like when we're talking like bigger trips,
not spring break.
Yeah, it's not spring break. You guys just stop using freaking plastic cups.
Yeah.
But, you have to do the research, you have to invest the time in it, because like you have no idea the impact that you have on, up to 1,000 people a day, every day. Think about every person you pass on the street, the people you interact with, like, especially if you're interacting with kids, like, sometimes you don't even realize how your interaction with people can impact a person or a whole community. And that's why it's so important to consider, how you want to leave an imprint, even if it's not something that's tangible or even intangible. Just that feeling of knowing that you didn't cause any harm is kind of what you need to go in with.